Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm Byron O'Neill, your host for our Comics Creator Chat. I probably have more pressure on me today than I usually do on the show because I posted that I was reading this series on Facebook a few weeks ago, and friends who have never paid attention to the podcast before said they were going to tune in for this one with their kids. No pressure. So it is my pleasure to introduce first-time guest Tim Probert on with me to talk about his all-ages fantasy graphic novel series Lightfall, whose fourth volume, A Place Between, just hit shelves earlier in April. Tim, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, people certainly have some feelings about the Lightfall series, and I'm not surprised. Everyone enjoys it because it's legitimately wonderful, but I can't remember another post about something that I'm reading getting quite so many positive comments, in what is usually a toxic social media landscape. You seem to have created something universally loved. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. It blows me away all the time, and I don't know, that fact makes me very happy to hear because I feel like I'm always hesitant to post or talk about things online because it is so heated all the time. So I like that people are enjoying my book, and it seems to bring a positivity around with it. Um, I hope.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think so, absolutely. And for myself, thank you for being a force of positivity in the world. As a creator, we need more of that because,
Yeah,
I mean, that social media is awful right now.
yeah, yeah. Not fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to step back to the beginning of the series for a second. I'm dealing with a what came first, like a chicken or the egg scenario.
hmm
Doing my research, the first iteration I found of the series was the animated short, The Ballad of Bee and Cad on
hmm
Nickelodeon's Nicktoons YouTube channel. And that
Yes.
was like 7 years ago, which seems like it predates the book maybe by a year or so. So you were a visual development artist for Nick. So how did this all start?
Yeah, yeah. So I had been doing some work for Nickelodeon way back when I was like first starting out in like 2014, 2015 maybe.
Okay.
And I was working on their shorts program as a freelancer helping develop backgrounds and characters for some different short films that they were making, and they were sort of like
Yeah.
testing grounds for different show possibilities and stuff. And while I was doing that, they were like, "Hey, do you have any ideas?" Um, and I had been kicking some ideas around, and I started developing these Bee and Cad characters. Um, and like the world was very different. I didn't have all that stuff figured out, but I had this idea of these. The two characters were kind of always there. They came to me pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
while I was doing that, I started working at Nathan Love, which is an animation studio that was in New York City, and my boss there, like, ended up talking to me about it, and they were connected to Nickelodeon, and, like, long story short, we ended up developing it as an animated pitch that we
Okay.
pitched to Nickelodeon, and then we made that short. And that was kind of the culmination of that initial process. Um, then didn't go anywhere, basically,
Okay.
which happens in development all the time,
Sure.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
common story. So after that, kind of sat with it a while, and I sort of took it back and thought about it for a little bit, and then started developing it as a comic, as a graphic novel instead,
Yeah.
which led to the books.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the scale of capital investment for animation is always pretty big. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's fairly familiar refrain.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot. We had a big team. It was a great experience. We had I did a ton of stuff on it, but we also worked with a studio in France, La Cachette, who works on. They did some Star Wars Visions shorts, and they animate Primal, the
Okay.
Gendy Tartakovsky show, and, they did all the character animation. So it was a fun experience, even though it didn't end up becoming an animated film.
Well, one of the hallmarks of the series is how lushly you filled out the world with these like visually stunning and magical locations. And
Mhm.
we were chatting before we started about you being from upstate New York. I spent considerable time there myself. That first book, certainly from my vantage point, seems heavily coated with it,
Mhm.
especially if you think about in the fall. So when everything kind of becomes a blanket of orange and red. So where are you pulling your inspiration from?
Totally, that's definitely a thing, and, like, hiking in mountains in upstate New York as a kid. I was from Long Island originally, and we used to drive up to like Bear Mountain. So all of those places. I just always loved woods and like finding ruins in the woods.
Yeah.
So the first book especially has like a lot of that kind of like seeping through it. I also was able to take a trip to Iceland right around the time
Okay.
I started the first book, and that was, I mean, it's like an amazingly. It looks like you're walking into a Tolkien story. So that
Oh
was a
yeah,
big
yeah,
influence
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that stuff is definitely kind of always in the back of my head of all these like little things that I could pull into the book.
Okay, okay. Are there other influences? Like I was getting some Lord of the Rings, maybe even I think I read somewhere there was Dinotopia was an influence on your work
Yeah.
as too.
Yes, totally. I love Dinotopia.
Me too. Me too. So it was a foundational visual blueprint for me as a kid. I saved
Mhm.
up a really long time to buy a print of Waterfall City. So I had this huge print of Waterfall City. It was hanging over my bed until I graduated high school. So
Totally. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and the way that James Gurney created that world, I just, like, I fell in love with it, and then, like, through his learnings, like, he talked a lot about the Hudson Valley painters, which sort of introduced me to this whole other school of art, in classical art, so, yeah, I feel like that was a real door opener. That and, the Redwall series was, like, really
Oh yeah.
big for me, and
Yeah.
just staring at those covers all the time, and I read those books, like, over and over. Uh, they were
Oh yeah.
definitely, yeah, influential, my young brain.
Well, what about Cad and B? So that's where I kind of get the Lord of the Rings stuff more is
Mhm.
their Sam and Frodo type of relationship. So tell me about developing them as the core nucleus of the book.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite books, but I also love, love like Star Wars and all of these things. And like one thing that I would come back to when I was developing this story, was that something I had trouble to connecting with some of those heroes was their readiness for the journey or readiness to accept going on the journey.
Sure.
Um, and I wanted to be that person, but didn't ever feel like I was. And as a kid, it was like, I want to be Luke Skywalker. He's like, all right, and uncle are dead. Like, let's go. Um, but I wouldn't. So that was like where B came from for me was this the place of anxiety and worry and like wanting to go out and see the world and do all these things, but it's just like overwhelming. And but then she still goes. She does it and she works through it and goes. And then Cad just kind of emerged like fully formed as this guy who wasn't worried about that stuff. So you have this nice foil there, but then, like, as I worked on him more, developing he's got his other feelings going on of, like, abandonment or loneliness or being the last of his kind. So I wanted to have that, like, hopefully relatable human core relationship at the heart of the story so that you could hang on to that while the world can go, like, completely insane all around it.
Yeah, I love the expression of anxiety. The way you've articulated that for B
Mhm,
is, I think, just beautiful and very approachable
mhm,
for kind of the all ages material that you're trying to hit there. And it's one of the things I love about comics. I
mhm,
can't imagine trying to do that with prose. You take an
mhm,
immense amount of thought process and lots of words
mhm,
to basically describe what you did with these black tendril clouds that sort of start surrounding her as she becomes anxious or overwhelmed.
mhm.
You know, and voila, you just draw some tendrils and you're good to go.
Yeah, which was, kind of a breakthrough moment for me as I was working through the story as the working on the first book, and I was trying to show the anxiety just in her posture and her body language, and I was trying to not have, like, a constant internal monologue, but do it all via things the characters are saying or what you see. And I was struggling with, like, how to show it, and I was just, like, scribbling over a drawing, and that's how, like, the black lines came about, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
right.
cool.
Oh, it's comics. You can show it visually. You can make up your own rules." And I was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was like this drawing and that I was just, like, scribbling and, like, covering her in these things, and I was like, "Oh, there it is. That's the feeling." And I can just show it, depict it visually, and then once I had that, it opened up all these doors of, like, ways to show it, and it creeping in or, like, completely absorbing her or, like, pulling her back. Um, Yeah, yeah. So it's like almost a happy accident.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there's been this kind of maturation may be the wrong word, but a
Mhm.
change in
Mhm.
the tone over the course of the 4 books. Like, for
Mhm.
example, in the 3rd book, you have the pig wizard who has a broken leg, and in book 4, without giving a whole bunch of stuff away, you're
Mhm.
dealing with the concept of death.
Mhm.
So, heroes obviously need peril, but the amplitude feels a bit more dialed up. So,
Mhm.
as you've developed this, as it's evolved over time as a storyteller, what's influencing that?
I think, life in general, reflecting on
Okay.
reflecting on the world around us and as things change and thinking about, kind of trying to think about bigger picture stuff as opposed to, like, just, like, individual goals or, like, these little steps that they have to do, but, like, I don't know, just the world getting bigger and the problems getting bigger and it,
Yeah.
slowly growing into more of like a fate of the planet or thinking about how we live in the world and like what can we do to like help the world heal from things we've done to it. And having these characters who are only there because they want to be there, trying to help and not because they were chosen or they were the, the chosen one or a prophecy or something. They're just like having heroes that wanna help these things, but it keeps growing all around them, both personally and in the world. The problems are getting bigger and their own problems are getting bigger, and they're, growing up and growing a little older over the journey as well. And I like the idea of, the books kind of growing with readers too.
Yeah.
So especially if you pick it up as a younger reader and they're coming out every 2 years, you're kinda growing with every book. So I always liked that idea of, it's starting a little bit lighter and then ending not darker, but just yeah, it's grown, hopefully.
Yeah, it's kinda weird when you think about it sequentially like that, where you may have had a 7-year-old who started reading it in
Mhm.
2020, who's now 13 or 14, so they're
Totally.
in a very different place.
Yeah, yeah, and same with me, I was, like, not I was almost 30 when I started, and it's been many years. Like, I'm growing older too, and, you want the story to kinda grow with you as well as you're telling it, or I like that for myself.
Yeah, did you find that the whole experience of COVID changed the way you were approaching this as a storyteller?
I don't know if it changed it I don't know if it changed my writing because I did a lot of it during COVID, or a lot of the second
Yeah.
book was almost entirely during COVID. I think what it did was, lowered, expectations on myself because once the book came out, there was nowhere for me to go except for starting the next book.
Yep.
And it created this surreal experience of, like, my book being out in the world, but the world kind of, like, being shut down,
Yeah.
and me not being out in it, and in a way, it was sort of nice because I was like, "Alright, I guess I'll just write the next one while I'm here." And then things had opened up by the time this second book, or more the third book, was the first time I really got to go out, like, interact with the people who had been reading it. Um, so I feel like that was, like, more the effect of, like, "Oh, wow, people were reading this the whole time, that's crazy."
I thought the expansiveness there with that was going on with book 2, book 1, I mean, and it's natural, it's a progression, right? Like,
Yeah.
so the world has to get bigger,
Mhm.
but, is a I always am curious with creators who have written stuff during that COVID period, is the grand adventure something that you were attracted to
Uh,
because you were stuck
yeah.
inside?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a one big escape for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I found myself actually more connected to A Place Between as a reader, as someone who has a serious autoimmune condition and has found myself at more than one kind of dark crossroads.
Mhm.
Their struggle really resonated with me. I
Mhm.
think too often all ages books have that tendency to shy away from more challenging topics. So,
Mhm.
thank you for assuming the intelligence and the self-awareness of the readership.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I loved books growing up that didn't talk down to me as a kid and just talked to me as a person, and that weren't afraid of being scary.
Yeah,
Even like something like Where the Wild Things Are is like kind of a scary book.
very much so.
And there's lots of other examples of things that are like slightly sinister or or do touch on stuff like death and life and you know the bigger things that you kind of deal with the whole time you're alive. So yeah, it's not to make something super morbid, but something more that's just connecting with those feelings for people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Even even the cover
Hmm.
of book 4, it feels emotionally purposeful as, B and Cat are looking at each other apprehensively, so
Hmm.
it creates that emotional place between the 2 of
Hmm.
them.
Yeah, totally, totally, and it's also the first time on the cover that they're like looking at each other. Um, like the first book, they're both looking off in different directions, and the second one, B's looking back and Cad's kind of off in the distance, looking off. And in the third book, Cad's like staring off into space while she's looking at him, and then this is the first time they're like looking at each other. Which was, I don't know, that was just fun for me to kind of play with their relationship throughout the series kind of on the cover. Um, but and then also this book dealing with them being separated for, like,
Yeah.
the first time, and realizing their importance to each other and also what they can do on their own. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so how did you approach that? Because it does see them kind of going on their own side quests,
Mhm.
again, without giving too much away. Was
Yeah.
that dictated by the story, or was your thinking this was just necessary for them to grow in a more organic way?
Yeah, it was more the second one. It just felt
Okay.
like I wanted to see where they were as individuals after having been together for so long or gone through these adventures together, and they've both grown in different ways, and they've been there for each other the whole time, and, like, what happens when you pull that chair out from under them.
Okay.
And they each have to Cad's been on his own for a long time before this, but, all of a sudden he's back to being on his own, which is,
Right.
jarring for him. And then B's like never really had to do this level of adventure on her own. So just seeing how she can handle it and how she's like developed her anxiety and dealing with those things over the course of this time. And then like my thinking was also that Cad goes on more of like a bit of a like metaphysical fantasy adventure, whereas B's takes her more towards like people and like
Okay.
the real like stuff going on the ground. So it's sort of these also two contrasts of things that they end up facing.
As ways to approach kind of the difficult challenges that they're dealing with emotionally, like B is forced to be more anxious, if you will, because she's put in a more physical confrontation with people. Well,
Yeah,
maybe not.
yeah, yeah. Even like as I was thinking about it and thinking about her, and she's grown up like in the woods with her grandfather, and like
Yeah.
never like even when she goes to the big town, Leland, in the first book, that's her first time in like a big town. And then I was like, what if I dropped her off in a city? And she's like barely navigated them at all before, and now she's doing it also on her own. So it's like a whole new set of emotional challenges for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the thinking there, um, of like why I kind of ended up splitting them up.
Okay. Well, you were kind of getting into a little bit of it there with the on the covers and how they've changed.
Hmm.
But, it's not just the stories that have changed, it's also the character silhouettes. So, although these are like minor shifts,
Hmm.
Cad wearing pants now, for instance,
It
right?
got cold.
Well, okay, fair enough. But as an artist working on this series for 7 plus years now or so, have you noticed your personal style shifting over time?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. And also, when I'm doing these books and, they're 250 pages, so many drawings, I like to change it up and
Yeah.
keep it interesting. And also, I like the idea of the characters like getting new outfits. I don't know, something about it is like fun of like they're not wearing the same thing for forever. They got new clothes, they get new things. Um so yeah, I did like the idea of them changing and getting more stuff. There's this Miyazaki talking about Nausicaä, which is like my favorite comic ever. I love that,
Okay.
and how she's this princess at the beginning who's lighthearted and she flies on her glider and like isn't weighed down. And by the end of the story, she's on the ground, she's walking, she's got all these bags, and she's carrying a kid, and she's like weighed down by all of these like earthly worries and things. So I always love that idea that and trying to do it with my characters where they start off, a bit lighter and like as the books go on, they get like heavier and heavier and more things. And then factoring in also just the logical part of like it's getting colder and colder and colder, so they need like more clothes and to layer up and yeah. So I just like those little changes that kind of keep it going
I
along
feel
the
like we're
way.
building up to inevitable snow here with
Yeah,
at least the next book.
yeah, I think so too. I held off on it. I was like, if I bring snow now, there's nowhere to go but more snow. So holding off
Yeah.
on it for a minute. But yeah, yeah.
Well, do you feel like it's harder to level up as an artist, working on the same characters over time, or does that familiarity allow you more creative experimentation in other ways?
Yeah, yeah, it's sort of a double-edged sword because you don't wanna fall into the, like, knowing how to draw them by habit or routine, and then you're doing, like,
Right.
lazy drawings, which is a very,
Okay.
like, easy trap to fall into, but then also keeping it interesting because 'cause you're drawing the same thing so many times. But I've tried my best to, like, every time I sit down to start drawing the next book, I'm like, "I will draw this one better than the last one." Like, whatever it is, whether it's more detailed or the backgrounds are more interesting or the characters have more dynamic poses or whatever, I'm always, like, trying to level up every time. It's the
Do you
goal.
have time to analyze your work once you're done with the book, or say like, "Nope, I'm on to the next one. We got to
It
keep going."
it does move pretty fast.
I bet.
Yeah, and sometimes yeah, sometimes I just, like, put it in the rear view and don't look back at it for a couple months, and then, yeah, I don't know, sometimes I go back to the first book, I'm like, "Hey, pretty good drawings in here. I did these? That's pretty cool." Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back there.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, there's always trying to get better, I think.
Yeah. So what's your process look like? Are you working exclusively digitally then, or?
No, no, so I do my thumbnails digitally on an iPad just because it's faster, but I
Yeah.
draw all the pages on paper. And
Wow.
they're just on,
Okay.
like, 8.5 by 11. Yeah, it's actually I just packed them all away. This is the book 4 binder. So these
Wow.
are
That's a tome.
yeah, these are all the pages. Um, so what I do is after I do the thumbnails, I blow them up and print them out, and then I
Okay.
put them on a light table, and I roughly draw it in red pencil, and that's where I, like, really figure out everything, and then I ink it with a mechanical pencil, just like a regular mechanical pencil.
Yeah.
And then I scan those, and I do all the panels and balloons in Photoshop, and then the painting is all in Photoshop. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, so it's kind of a back and forth, but it's been I think drawing on paper really helps me not, like, noodle and commit to stuff, and
Yeah.
not, like, zoom into these tiny details that get, like, blurred out when you print it anyway. Uh,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
I work slightly larger than the print size, just, like, a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So it gets scaled down a bit, but it just yeah, that's the way I've been doing it.
So are you doing everything yourself? I thought, if I'm not mistaken, you had your brother doing flatting for you at one point.
Yeah, my brother's helped me flat, and my wife has helped me flat. She flatted a lot of the 4th book, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good partner right there.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty great. We were here, the 4th one was a tough one for me to write. Um,
Okay.
I think it was just, a bit of burnout, honestly. I had done, like,
Yeah.
the 3 books in a row, COVID in the middle of it. I was working for most of it at a job and also sometimes doing illustration for other books at the same time. And after,
Okay.
yeah, 5 or 6 years of that, I was like, "Whoa, I'm really tired." So the writing just like I got writer's block, I guess. I was just stuck for a bit. And it eventually came together, but because of that, it was like I turned it in like and then it went to the printer like the next day. It was down to the wire.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was like a week. I think they had a week of like when I turned the files into when it went to print. So yeah, my wife was in the studio with me flatting and I was painting and we were just like hunkered down here for a couple months straight.
Oh, your editor was like, "Hey, do I need to fly out? Do I need to
Yeah.
help you?"
It's just gently nudging. He's like, "You're okay, right? Are you gonna
Yeah.
make it?" He was very supportive. My editor is great. He's been with me the whole time. Um, they understand, but I know sometimes I pushed the limits of the deadlines.
So, as a creator, I mean, just speaking candidly, like we had this thing come out where this past week, I don't know if you've seen it, but on Popverse, Jim Lee is talking about back in the day and finding that work-life balance, and how much he relied on the 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. just grind of just
Mhm.
continually cranking and cranking and cranking. So, based on your experience, what advice do you have for people to kind of balance those things? It's
Um,
hard.
it is hard. It is hard, and I've gone through phases of like the gym lead, like trying different people's schedules to see if they work for me. I'll do
Yeah.
Stephen King's schedule, or I'll try out Ursula Le Guin's schedule, and
Okay.
it helps to try them out and see what feels good. But in
Yeah.
the end, it's also personal and based on like what is working for you. But taking breaks is just so important, and I always forget, but it's like, especially when you're stuck, it's like, just put it all down and, like, close the screen and walk and, like, look at a tree and, like, stop thinking about it, um, and come back to it. But yeah, I think I was pushing the work part of the work-life balance pretty hard for a while, so I'm still trying to find it myself, I guess.
It's hard. What is Stephen King's schedule? I have no idea what this looks like.
I don't remember if his was, like, a super specific, like, daily schedule. I think there was one. It was in his On Writing book, which I found to be a pretty helpful, very helpful book, but his thing was that he writes every day, and I think it was an
Okay.
amount of words, and he would, like, hit that amount every day no matter what, even, like, holidays, so, like, 7 days a week.
Oh,
Even
wow.
if it was stuff, like, he ended up throwing out, it was just, like, he would wake up and work until that was done at, like, 2 in the afternoon and then go, like, do the rest of his day. Um which it's helpful when you're thinking of it in the job sense of you just need to get stuff done and, like, whatever it is, you have to, like, get it out and get it on paper, and then you can edit it or fix it later. Um, but I need days off, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to step away from the story sometimes and come back to it and see what it was I was doing. So it wasn't quite right for me.
Well, I mean, I just picture him being in the house in Bangor, like 2 a.m. in the morning. Everything's dark. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a light behind him and he can barely see. And he's,
Yeah.
hunched over this, tome of paper,
Yeah.
writing everything by hand or a typewriter.
Totally, totally.
Yeah. Well, is there any advice you have to offer up to an up and coming young artist who might be listening in? Like, I
Mhm.
might know a few that are actually going to be doing this. Exactly that.
One thing that I've learned is to, not hold on to your ideas forever waiting for, like, the perfect time to use them.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I think it's so much better to, like, get it out and get it whatever it is, get it on paper and, like, start making it, and then even if it ends up not great and you don't go anywhere with it, you can come back to it later and, like, pull it back in. But yeah, I used to, like, I'd get this little idea, I'm like, "I'm gonna save that for the perfect time," or, like, the
Okay.
perfect project or the perfect place to insert that, like, little character I came up with. And sometimes you just hold on to them forever, or even by the time you go to put them in, you're like, it wasn't that good of an idea anyway. I don't know. I was obsessing over it." So I feel like the process of getting them out, you learn so much from it. So the more you can, like, do that, you realize, like, more ideas are gonna come. Because I was like, "I'll never have an idea again, so I need to use this one correctly." Um, and that's not true. I think the more ideas, they perpetuate more ideas coming out. So it's
Okay.
sort of like it starts the floodgates. So don't be too
Yeah.
precious about it.
It feels like the way you're describing it is that your process isn't so dictated by the world. Like, like, okay, I have this and this and this and this and this I need to do with this particular fantasy world. And I need to shove that in here as much as
Mhm.
a much more organic process
Yeah.
of feeling it out as you go to some extent.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it is like that. I think of it more like sculpting, where in school when I learned sculpture and we built clay figures and stuff, and you were putting clay on and pushing it around and then taking clay off, and it was this constant like push and pull of
Yeah.
things as opposed to like carving something out of marble where you're getting to the point where you carved it and it's done. It's always like much more malleable process for me. And my writing is definitely like that, where I'll put stuff in and I'll start trying it out, and then it's like, this isn't really working. Let's pull it out or change it, or this character's gonna morph into something else." And just trying to be a little bit looser with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have found works for me. I'm sure other people are like straight ahead to the end of the story. I know exactly what I'm doing, but mine is a much more meandering process.
So Is that something that you've adapted? You're talking about sculpting there. You've worked in animation. Are those two things as a creator compatible? It just seems like the wrong word, but the creative process just seems very, very different
Yeah.
between those two things.
Yeah, yeah, I guess the physical process is different, but I guess for me, the mental process ends up being pretty similar. Um,
Okay.
and a lot of it for me is like editing. Um, like my first draft is never right, and my biggest trouble is getting the first draft out, and then I can fix it. So for me, it's always that just like put the clay on and then I can make it look good. Or like
Okay.
get the armature built and I can make something, or get the first draft out and then I can edit it 4 or 5 times and push things around until the story feels good. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Same with the drawings. It's like that's why I do the red pencil, is because that's where I can be a lot looser and kind of move things around and still like erase and find the right poses and stuff, as opposed to when I go to the inking stage, it's like a little bit more set in stone.
Okay. Do you feel like having those two worlds that are creative outlets for you help you when you get in those creative ruts? Can you sort of shift back and forth? And like, oh, okay, well, I'm doing this for a bit, and it makes sparks this idea. Oh, now I can reinterpret this in a very different way.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. Even just like not creative things, but just doing anything. I feel like some of my best ideas come when I'm like not trying to
Okay.
really hard to think of an idea. Or if I have a story part that's in my head and I'm thinking about it a lot, and then it's like out when I'm like trimming some branches on a tree that like inspiration strikes. I'm like, oh, there it is. I got it.
Okay. Yeah. I clearly needed to cut Cad's leg off, and that's exactly how this works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask too about Todd Beldenor, because this is a,
hmm
a new character in book 4. We're all about promoting inclusion and diversity here on Comic Book Yeti. And I believe this is your first queer character in the series. So
hmm
I'm curious, kind of given the current landscape of what amounts to, in my mind, a witch hunt and with books in schools and public libraries with this anti-queer agenda currently, it was a risk, right? You didn't
Yeah.
have to do it. It's of minor narrative relevance. So why was it important to you?
I think because of all the things that you just said, that I
Okay.
think it's
Yeah.
important for characters of all different backgrounds and feelings that are represented in books for kids. Um,
Yeah.
and there was a point where I was like, "This is my world. I could do whatever I want with it." And if that makes you not want to read it, I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I don't.
Well, I
um,
mean, bless
yeah,
you for doing it, 'cause, you didn't have to, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It didn't. It felt right, I guess.
I love that. No, I mean, I love
Yeah,
that. Like,
yeah, and I guess in a sense it's a big deal, but it feels like it shouldn't be, and that's the world that I would like to have. So
right.
so as long as I'm writing a world, it's like I wanted to have, representation in it that hopefully, just feels natural to the world and the people in it,
Yeah,
which I hope we get to in our world one day.
absolutely. Yeah. Manifest towards reality. I'm
Yeah,
all about it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're done. So,
Mhm.
based upon what I'm hearing and sort of what I've seen out there on the interwebs, so
Yes.
how many books do you even have an agenda? Like, I'm gonna stop. Do you know the end?
I do. I do
Okay.
generally know the end. I will say every time I start a book, I feel like I know how that book's gonna end, and it tends to change along the way. But the plan is for 6 books, so there's 2 more coming. I'm working on the beginnings of book 5 now.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so the idea is 6 books to kind of tell the whole story and have it wrapped up as a series. Yeah, so I've been working towards it. I think that was one of the tricky things with, the 4th book too, of, like, for me knowing it's the back half of the story has begun, and, like,
Yeah.
starting to lay the tracks for getting to the ending now without but we're not at the ending yet, so you still want this book to be its own story that works as a whole, but doesn't but, like, getting us to where things are gonna go, was sort of a tricky tightrope for me, I guess.
So how comfortable are you with the idea of an ending? Given
Oh,
your process and kind of what I've heard so far, like I could see you being like, well, let's just keep this going. We're not done yet.
yeah, yeah. I mean, part of me wants to. It's gonna be very bittersweet. Even the fact that, like,
Sure.
thinking about it now makes me kind of sad. But I like things that end, and I feel like a good ending is important,
Yeah.
to a story. I don't wanna be one of those things that just kinda goes on forever and people dip out because it's, meandering and wandering, and you're like, "Where is this going? Is he just gonna do this forever?" Um, so, I mean, in my heart, I'm always like, I could, like, pick out a character and do a side story or something if I, like, really needed to go back to this world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like being Cad's journey needs to hit a conclusion, and hopefully one that'll satisfy readers. Especially, I know sometimes people are like feel they don't love that the books kind of end with like a cliffhanger sometimes. Um,
Comics. I
yeah,
mean, this is what
right. I'm
it is what
always
happens.
yeah, and I'm always trying to like wrap the story up emotionally and then like set up that we're continuing. So it's just like a little thing at the end of like story's not over, it's keep continuing.
Yeah.
Which for me, I've always known when there's another book coming. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm just writing the beginning of the next book. It's fine.
Well, I think everybody would be fine as long as you don't pull a George R. R. Martin and just like stop, you know?
Uh, yeah, I don't want to do that.
I'm so like my son just started reading those relatively recently, and I had to tell him, "Yeah, man, he said he's not writing anymore." He's like,
Yeah.
"What? No."
I understand though that if they make a show of your books and they finish it before and it has that kind of reaction, like it's got to suck the joy out of it a little bit. I could see not wanting to finish it off and knowing that like no matter how you end it, like the knives are coming out for you. Like it's not really like doesn't seem that appetizing.
Well, he was raised, I guess, would be the accurate way to put it, on Jim Butcher because that was his first sort of real exposure to a more adult kind of fantasy, and he
Hmm.
just dove into those with COVID and read them all, and
Hmm.
he's read the most recent one, which I haven't had a chance to yet because I bought
Hmm.
it knowing, "Okay, I'm gonna let you read it
Yeah.
first."
Yeah.
But when you're used to that kind of level of serial storytelling and then you're told, "Hey, they're not gonna finish the series,"
Yeah.
yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Lightfall Book 4, A Place Between, is on shelves now. This is such a charming and delightful adventure series, folks. So if you're unfamiliar with it, I encourage you to check it out. And it's not just for kids. You know,
Mhm.
many of the people who are excited about me getting to talk to Tim today are adults. So don't let ever an all ages designation keep you from a satisfying read. So.
Yes. Yes, please.
Well, Tim, you're new here, and I always like to sign off on a positive note, and we do that with a shout out. So this can be something that inspired you recently, or someone that did something nice for you that you just like to, give them a mention. So I'll go first to give you a minute to think about it.
Sure.
Um, I just wanted to say thank you to both David Andrea and Matthew Rosenberg. They have both sent me signed copies of their books, knowing I can't travel and get out to cons. So I really, really appreciate that. And I put them, can't see it right now because I'm still getting over a lupus flare here. This is not my normal background, folks. But usually I have the people I've interviewed have signed books behind me and stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you to them. And you should go buy their books, not because they're nice, but because they are talented, but they are also nice. So, Tim, what you got?
I'd like to shout out my editor, Andrew Arnold, who's
Okay.
who's been with me on this journey for a really long time and has had incredible patience and guidance and wisdom the entire way. And I feel like our careers have been intertwined for many years because we worked together on books before Lightfall.
Okay.
And so now, we've just like kind of grown up together. And I just sent him like a brief outline for the next book. And the fact that our journey is just like being CAD, like reaching a conclusion is very momentous for me.
I
So yeah, I'd like
mean,
to thank him for being there with me.
if you've worked with him that long, I'm sure whatever you've got going on in the future, you'll be working together
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think we'll keep making stuff. But
Awesome. Well, Tim, thanks so much for joining me on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks to everybody out there. And I hope you like the new book. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put a link in the show notes for everybody so they can buy the book. Hopefully at independent bookstores. That's just gonna. I'll put my pitch in there.
It's the best place to do
You
it.
don't.
Those people are wonderful.
Yes, you don't have to buy it on Amazon.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and they might recommend
but yeah.
another book you would also like, which is great.
Well, this is Byron O'Neill, and on behalf of all of us at Comic Book Yeti, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Peace.